swamp rock, southern rock, hard rock, funk and soul, you know? Fantastic. And he feels very, very comfortable. It's as if he was made to jam in those respective areas, complementing the rock sound, the soul sound, the funk sound, whatever, the country sound, whatever he wants to do. Yo, man, John Fogerty is one of those artists that has fantastic range, and he can go anywhere he wants. This last track, perfect example of that, man. Really fantastic. And he was just hitting on a whole bunch of excellent soul and rock artists there. He was channeling a little bit of James Brown, a little bit of Sam and Dave, a little bit of Little Richard, a little bit of himself, a little bit of everything, just in that last track alone. My Toot Toot, that was fun as hell, man. Yo, the last two tracks are the big standout tracks to me on side 2. Of course, Centerfield is, of course, the money-making hit and all of that sort of thing. But, you know, even though I probably have not heard Centerfield as much as a lot of you have who grew up with John, grew up embracing classic rock more so, it's still in my mind a little bit overplayed, you know what I mean? So the last two tracks on this side 2 was really delightful. I'm going to use that word. Overall, man, the whole side is really good. All the songs are good. Overall, the whole album is definitely an A, man. And when you're looking at the album overall, and here I go again, comparing where he is now with this album back to his CCR days, it's a nice, easy transition from him, man. It's like he's a frog on a lily pad, and he doesn't need to leap from one lily pad to another. It's just a nice walk and an easy stroll from one pad to the other. A lot of artists just don't have that, and I just can't do that. And once they leave the collective of the group or whatever it is, go out on their own, you can tell that no, it takes the structure of being in that collective group to make that person what they are, where it comes to making hits and having that signature sound. But John is the hit maker. He is the signature sound. He is the brand. And I said in my little intro that when you are an entertainer, when you get into the business of music, and when you are a group dynamic, in the group dynamic, and you know, I don't know a hell of a lot about music and all that, but it's just common sense just by watching. In that group dynamic, you have your role to play. Certain players will shine more than others. You know, you've got your frontmen, you've got your quiet ones, you've got your creative ones that have that great creative itch, and they can just close their eyes and then open their eyes again, and now they've got the concept for a great hit song. Not everybody has that ability, and John Fogerty is the cornerstone of CCR. He is the hit maker. And in talking about how there was turmoil and jealousy and animosity and all of this sort of thing, maybe John did rule with an iron fist. Maybe he was stubborn. Maybe he was own way. Maybe he was all of those things. At the end of it all, though, you've got to sit, if you're the other band members or whoever else is trying to kind of get in his creative way, you got to sit down and you've got to assess, and you got to say, okay, what's really important here? My ego, my this, my that, or letting this great train, this gravy train, run its course. And at the head of it all is John. Familiarity breeds contempt, but keep that stuff under wraps. Yes, he's my brother. Yes, he's my best friend. Yes, he's this and this and this to me. But to the rest of the world, he is John Fogerty, the great hit maker. So let this dude have his way. Let him run his course, and shut up, sit still, don't get in his way, Go along for the ride. Be privileged and happy that you are associated with such a great person who down the road is going to be a legend, and that you can say that you are a part of it all. I know in hindsight, all of that stuff will not come to you. That's why great management should be a part of it all. And of course, these guys, they're the pioneers. They didn't have all of that now. I imagine a lot of groups probably have good management. Someone in the capacity of a Peter Grant, for example, that will say all of those things that I just said. That's your role. This is the role of the band. This is how we're going to continue becoming successful. Let this guy lead. Don't get in his way, and just be happy that you're here. And, just have somebody strong to be able to say, this is how it is. Know your role, shut your mouth, and get on with it, right? So I don't think that a lot of these bands from earlier elements of the Renaissance period had that kind of leadership. And I keep going back to the role or the example of Peter Grant and Led Zeppelin. For example, in Led Zeppelin, you've got Plant and you've got Page. And those two guys, they're definitely two strong frontmen. And then you've got Jones. Jones is that silent assassin. He's probably the most talented person in that whole band. That he's got a tremendous amount of skills, and that he is just as good in every respect and just as important. But he probably understands his role very, very well. He is quiet, his personality is calm, and he knows what role he has to play in order to make Led Zeppelin successful. Yes, he's not going to get all of the spotlight, all of that sort of thing, and he's fine with that. I imagine. Or someone in a capacity again like Peter Grant will say, hey, this is the role that you have to play, right? Just make sure that you do it, that sort of thing. So altogether, I'm just in the end wondering to myself if this was in place for CCR, if they would still be together, if they would still be cranking out hits, if they would have had this curve where they're still really, really good friends and all of that sort of thing that Led Zeppelin had back then. You know what I'm saying? I'm just kind of using a comparison. Set me straight if I'm missing a couple of things. I'm sure I am. So, man, let me do a little review here. So this is the end of side 2. I'm cutting this off here, and we're going to get into our review portion. And you guys by now know why I do this. So let's get into the review, man, and see what we can learn about Centerfield. Okay, yeah, Centerfield has looks like three and a half short paragraphs, so not a lot of info. Let's read it all, man. So Centerfield is the third solo studio album by musician John Fogerty. Okay, so it's the third. Released in 1985, it spawned the hit singles The Old Man Down the Road, Rock and Roll Girls, and the title track, Centerfield. This was Fogerty's first album in 9 years. After Asylum Records rejected his Hoodoo album, he decided to take a long break from the music business because of legal battles with his record company. In the meantime, Fogerty's recording contract with Asylum Records was reassigned to co-own Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers Records, so this album was the first release on the Warner Brothers label. Fogerty played all the instruments on this album himself, thanks to overdubbing. Wow. The image on the cover shows an old-fashioned beat-up glove, as referenced in the title song, and text similar to a logo of a baseball team, setting the mood to the track. The RIAA has certified the album double platinum. That's 2 million albums in sales. A 25th anniversary edition was released June 29, 2010, and features the original album digitally remastered, and adds a pair of rare bonus tracks, both of which released as B-sides to 45s released in '86. A cover of Rockin' Sidney Simmons' Sodexo hit My Toot Toot, taken from Fogerty's Changes in the Weather single, featuring Sidney himself on accordion, and 1950s R&B doo-wop gem I Confess by Teddy Van and Nathaniel Nathan, from Fogerty's Eye of the Zombie single. The review at Blog Critics incorrectly credits I Confess to Bay Area gospel group The Four Rivers. Okay, that's good info. Alright, man, so that's Centerfield album intro. Okay, and there's a part here just for legal issues, man. Let's read that. I want to get to know more about this Vance Can't Dance guy. Legal issues. The song Vance Can't Dance was altered and retitled Vance Can't Dance a few months after the release of the album in an unsuccessful attempt to avoid a defamation lawsuit from Saul Vance, owner of Fantasy Records. Okay, so he sued him anyway. The altered Vance Can't Dance version of this song appears on all post-1985 pressings of the album. A Vance lawsuit claimed that The Old Man Down the Road shared the same chorus as Run Through the Jungle, a song from Fogerty's days with CCR. Years before, Fogerty had relinquished copy and publishing rights of his Creedence songs to Vance and Fantasy in exchange for release from his contractual obligations. The defendant Fogerty ultimately prevailed when he showed that the two songs were whole, separate and distinct compositions. Bringing his guitar to the witness stand, he played excerpts from both songs, demonstrating that many songwriters, himself included, have distinctive styles that can make different compositions sound similar to less discerning ears. Wow. What an intricate defense, man. After prevailing as defendant, Fogerty sued Vance for the cost of defending himself against the copyright infringement. In such copyright cases, prevailing defendants seeking recompense were bound to show that the original suit was frivolous or made in bad faith. In this case, Fogerty versus Fantasy became precedent when the Supreme Court in '93 overturned lower court rulings and awarded attorneys' fees to Fogerty, without Fogerty having to show that Vance's original suit was frivolous. Very good. Very good. Good for you, John. Yeah, you gotta put an end to greed. That was just motivated by greed and the desire to control and to be, how would I say, ungrateful. Dude, you are ungrateful. You know, in the end, you're not only biting the hand that feeds, you basically want to go and you want to take from, that person, believing it to be yours. Yeah, you're just a greedy. Anyway, so let's go down to our last paragraph. That's dedication. The album is dedicated to Gossamer Wump. Fogerty said in an interview, "When I was a young child, my brothers had a record called The Adventures of Gossamer Wump. Gossamer Wump is a little kid who saw a big parade coming down the road and thinks, hey, this is what I want. I want to be a musician. Gossamer goes through all the instruments coming by and does not know how to decide what instruments he wants to play. Then at the end of the parade, he sees the triangle and thinks, yes, that's what I want to play. Determined to learn how to play the triangle, Gossamer takes his belongings and 26 peanut butter sandwiches and leaves for the big city. On his way, he sings, Jingle, Jungle, Jangle. I'm going to the big city to learn to play the triangle. In the city, Gossamer starts taking lessons, and very soon he plays Tingle. After 10 years of courage, determination, and hard work, Gossamer plays Tingle. No difference. At some site, no, but no difference? At some site, no, but Gossamer, he can hear the difference. This is what I like about this story. After 10 years in my garage, I played alone. They maybe don't hear the difference, but I do. Gossamer stuck to his dream, and that's why I dedicated this album to Gossamer Wump. Okay, and that is from John Fogerty. Very interesting. And that concludes song fact info on Centerfield. There's chart performances and references and things of that sort, and some live information, but we'll stop there, man. That was a lot of reading. Yeah, man, hey, John Fogerty, despite all of his legal troubles and some of the leeches in his life trying to take from him and all of this sort of thing, you can't deny who he was and what he is. A very, very talented songwriter and a very, very talented musician. And you can throw whatever you want to at the guy. You can't deny his talent. And at any point in time, he can sit down and he can create something masterful, and he can basically sell 1 million albums. Not everyone can do that. And I believe that jealousy in the end is the underlying current of a lot of the people around John's life. So, hey, hats off to you, John. You're a great musician. You're a great artist, man. And don't let anybody mess with you. I'm glad that you stuck to your guns and that you fought and won, and you showed people that not only are you a great creative force, but you're a very, very strong-willed person. And that is what it takes, not only to thrive, but to survive sometimes and overcome. So great story of inspiration. So following John's chronology, following his growth progression all the way from the CCR days all the way to now has not only been very entertaining, but very, very enlightening. And it's a really, really good example of somebody prevailing in life, despite all of the turmoil and turbulences. I mean, we can probably think of so many examples of people out there who have had just as much talent as John, but allowed themselves to be hindered and stopped short of reaching their full potential. I'm talking about musicians, I'm talking about artists, I'm talking about actors and things of that sort. But John is a really good example of somebody who knew his value, knew that he had something really great to offer, and wouldn't let anyone get in his way of doing so. And look, he prevailed. So fantastic, man. He's legendary for so many reasons. So that concludes my look at CCR overall for Artist of the Month. So with Artist of the Month, man, as many of you know, I'm speaking to patrons more so now. I have published a poll, and thank you very much, everyone, for responding to the poll in taste, not attacking each other for your individual recommendations like the last time. Turned into a real pissing contest. So thank you very much for not attacking each other and being confrontational. I appreciate that. I'll continue with those polls as long as I see that it doesn't turn into anything like that. And it'll be fun. It'll be fun for everyone to kind of track along and see where things are at, that sort of thing. So that's what I'd like to do. So let's hope that that stays the way it is. But for now, man, it looks good, and it looks where are we? It looks like it's a toss-up between Neil Young and was it ZZ Top? I think it's Neil Young, and then ZZ Top is right on his heels. And then is it Paul Rogers? I think that's the top three. But yeah, man. So I mean, you guys can now go and check yourselves too, right? So that's where we're at right now. So I'm gonna keep the poll up and wait until the very, very last minute of the last day of the month before I actually count it up. And then usually the following day after that, I'll probably have maybe my first reaction. Or in this case, what I might do with an artist of the month, for example, let's say if it's Neil Young. I know Neil has a vast catalog. I mean, from his Buffalo Springfield days to his Crosby, Stills and Nash days to his solo stuff. It's just a vast, huge world to venture into. So maybe approaching it chronologically might not be the right way. So I think in a case like this, knowing that Neil has such a vast catalog, I'll probably send out another questionnaire. Direct question, getting a direct answer back, and asking how I should approach navigating through Neil Young's discography. Should I go chronology wise, or should I jump around? Kind of like with the Stones. If the Stones ever become Artist of the Month, I know that I'm not going to do a whole chronology of the Stones. So more than likely, I'm just guessing you'd probably tell me to bounce around, focus on these prime years, that sort of thing. I imagine that there are some artists, Neil Young probably as an example, that would probably fall under that exception. So if Neil does become Artist of the Month, the first thing that I'm probably going to do is send you another survey questionnaire asking how to navigate through his chronology, what to listen to specifically. So with these new polls, and I hope to keep it going like this, that's how I'm going to approach you down the road, patrons, just so you know. All right, man. So that's my look at CCR and John Fogerty. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for all of the great information and teaching me about his life and CCR overall. It was fantastic. One of my favorite groups to cover for Artist of the Month, and I'm definitely looking forward to the next artist for the next month. So you guys have yourselves a good day, and I'll catch you in my next Artist of the Month cover. Take care. Peace.